Ji. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank,
We also
thank
have
you for
Sri
inviting.
Anil Pradhanji. Thank you very much, sir, for joining. We would also be having Acharya Shri Pundrik Goswami ji in some time. And we have with us the Honorable President of Central Tibetan Administration, Dr. Lobsang Sangyeji. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today. We would also be having with us Dr. Kavita Sharma ji, former President of South Asian University. And of course, with this interesting panel, we would be having a very, very interesting discussion on this very important topic today. We also have our beloved founder of MIT World Peace University, Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karaj, sir. We are here with us. Thank you very much, sir. And now, without wasting a single minute, we should start with this session. My friends, today we have with us Shri Ravindranath Patilji, IPS, as the moderator of this particular session. So before I begin with this session, I would like to request him to kindly propose his introductory remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Gautamji. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. Namaskar. Maulana Saab, Khushamdeed.
Oh, thank you.
Virus,
Thank you. Shukriya.
virus in the body or soul. In the first 2 quarters of 2020, we have seen an utter devastation of world economies. I'm in a dilemma. As a cybersecurity professional, for years together, I believed that computer viruses are too difficult to handle. Now I am forced to believe that they are no match with a wheel-shaped, real tiny RNA virus named COVID-19. I am in a dilemma. As a devout Hindu, I firmly believed in the karma theory that one's actions, good or bad, result into an outcome, again good or bad. But in COVID-19, the world has seen a bad action of one nation state resulting into worst ever socio-economic crisis in all other nation states. And interestingly, that particular nation state from where the virus originated is now recovering. In India, I have heard on numerous occasions that the virus was brought in by the passport holders, while the real sufferers are the ration card holders. I'm speechless. On a lighter note, I'm also a passport holder, currently sitting in Hong Kong and waiting to be united with my ration card holder family. I'm also in the dilemma. As we are seeing that world is battling the pandemic, Mother Earth is rejuvenating. Now we can see ice-clad Himalayas sitting in a restaurant in Jalandhar. I'm wondering whether uh, COVID-19 is a problem or a solution to some of the problems. I'm also in a dilemma. Now we can come to the topic. While the world is battling the pandemic, we are fighting many inner battles. And I would like to mention a few. First, while we are trying to find a vaccine for COVID-19, there are massive cyber attacks on the labs conducting medical research. Probably few people want to take credit, many others want to disrupt. Second, uh, on one hand, humanity is suffering. We have seen war hysteria increasing across the globe. We have already seen issues between India and China and in many other countries. Third, in 2019, there was a movie named Chichore, and there was a character named Anni Pathak. That character conveyed the message not to be a loser. And in 2020, the same Anni lost his own fight in a tragic manner. And the last and fourth one, we have seen a hashtag Black Lives Matter across the globe, indicating that racism is increasing concurrently during the COVID crisis. And hence, while the medical fraternity will continue to find antidote for the RNA virus, we need philosophers, thinkers, educationists to find antidote for the virus that resides within us. Today, I look forward to be enlightened by the eminent speakers on this. With this note, I once again welcome today's guest and request Professor Gautam Bakbap
questions and bringing our attention to so many important issues. Those are burning, not just this COVID 19, but you talked about many other issues. And yes, indeed, today I think this panel would be discussing all those issues. And probably at the end of the session, we would be having few answers to all these questions you have asked. Thank you very much for that, Patilji. My friends, in order to understand more about this particular session today, I would like to request my technical team if they could please relay a small film made on this particular theme. Thank you.
The COVID 19 pandemic is defining the global health crisis of our time, the greatest challenge mankind has faced since the World War II. Let us scrutinize COVID 19. Is it a virus in the body or soul? At International Conference on Eradication of Biological and Chemical Weapons.
Thank you very much for that video, and thank you very much for bringing in much more clarity on this particular topic. But before we actually start a discussion on this particular topic, it has been a small tradition. Though because of this format of the conference, we cannot have photographers running around and clicking photographs. But in our own way, we try and capture these moments. I request everyone in the panel to please keep their cameras on and give a good smile to our digital camera so that we can capture this moment. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining. Have you captured the moment, IT team?
Just a moment.
Please. Well, this feels funny, but this is the format, and probably this is the new normal that we all have to accept. Please confirm once
It's done.
the photograph.
Done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now we can proceed with the formalities of this session. But before we go any further, today we have with us to represent the young citizens of our nation, to represent these youth, the students of our country, the representative of MIT World Peace University, Shri Mutharasan, with us. So without wasting any time, I would like to request him to address the gathering. Over to you.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead. You're audible.
Good evening to one and all. Today the topic is COVID-19, virus in the body or soul. Viruses are microbes that cannot be seen with our naked eye. In fact, they are neither living nor non-living. However, they are omnipresent, and the impact of viruses is for everyone to see. And they surely make a terrible damage on the world. Fear is a universal emotion that also cannot be seen but only experienced. In fact, fear plays an important role in our life, that they keep us safe and at the same time they stop us from growing. However, the impacts of mass fear can be seen all around the world. In the Indian context, when COVID-19 was spreading in China and European countries, fear gripped the country. When the number of COVID-19 patients were in the hundreds, a panic has started. This grew into a completely understandable phobia, but it was not the fear of virus. It was the fear of outsiders. It was the fear of people belonging to a particular sect. It was xenophobia, which quickly turned into Islamophobia, thanks to the mass hysteria spread by a section of media and society. Humanity has survived pandemics before and will survive this. But the question is, will we come back as a of this pandemic as a better species or the worst one. A doctor who worked in Chennai to treat COVID-19 patient was not given a proper burial as people were afraid of the spread of disease from bodies. Migrants who return from the various parts of the country are being treated with suspicion and fear. Sometimes the fear makes things bigger than what they really are. A 35-year-old who came from Sydney to New Delhi was quarantined. Afraid that he will not be able to see his family, he tried climbing down from the 7th floor of the hospital with nothing but bedsheets tied together. He died. Later, it was discovered that he tested negative for COVID-19. According to the Indian Psychiatry Society, the number of mental health cases, including anxiety and depression, has increased by 20% since lockdown. The lockdown and unlock, the economic conditions and uncertainty of industries and the hospital bills are all causes of worry. However, not all is lost. We see sight of people helping each other. In spite of the hysteria, humanity has prevailed. World governments that paid no heed to the global emission goals stood silent when countries went to lockdown. It made us all realize that there is a possibility for a better life without polluting the environment. Perhaps this fear of life was necessary for us. Here I conclude by saying, when the virus is contained, let's hope that our internal virus is also contained. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for your views, and thank you very much for putting in front of us what sort of issues that we all have to tackle. Thank you very much, Muttarasan. Thank you very much for representing Young India. And now it's my honor and privilege to introduce you to the first eminent speaker of this session. But before I introduce him, let me request all the eminent speakers that we have kept in reserve 10 minutes for each one of you to understand your views, because we have kept some time in reserve for questions and answers. Every session, we have seen many questions coming in, and sometimes the question and answer session really gets interesting than what is expected. So I request everyone to please stick to a timeline so that we can give a good amount of time to the questions and answers. Thank you very much. First, I would like to now invite the first eminent speaker of this session, and it is indeed my honor and privilege to introduce him to all of you, Maulana Muhammad Madani ji, General Secretary of Jamaat Ulema-e-Hind and a former member of Parliament Rajya Sabha. Shri Maulana Muhammad Madani ji, born on 3rd of March 1964, is an Indian politician. He was elected to Rajya Sabha, the upper house of the Parliament of India, as the member of Rashtriya Lok Dal from Uttar Pradesh. He is the General Secretary of the Muslim organization Jamiat Ulema-e-Hind. He is the grandson of the former principal of Darul Uloom Deoband, Indian freedom movement activist Hassan Ahmed Madani ji. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today in this very, very important conference and this session. Without wasting a single minute, I hand over the charge to you. Over to you, sir.
शुक्रिया बहुत, थैंक यू। मेरे लिए ये बड़ा खूबसूरत लम्हा है, अपॉर्चुनिटी है कि आप लोगों के बीच में, ग्रेट अपॉर्चुनिटी है कि आप लोगों के बीच में इस सेशन में मुझे कुछ कहने का मौका मिला है। तो ऑफ कोर्स ये जो पेंडेमिक है और ये जो इसकी प्रॉब्लम है, तकलीफ है, अब इसका जैसा कि अभी मुझसे पहले जो स्पीकर थे वो कह रहे थे, तो ये जो इसके इम्पैक्ट एक इसका इम्पैक्ट वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी पर हुआ है, दूसरा इम्पैक्ट अपनी कंट्री के इकोनॉमी पर हुआ है, वो एक अलग है। फिर उसका इम्पैक्ट लोगों के ऊपर हो रहा है, लोग बीमार हो रहे हैं और कुछ लोग ज़्यादा बीमार हो जाते हैं, ज़्यादा तकलीफ में हो जाते हैं, कुछ लोग थोड़ी तकलीफ होती है, ठीक हो जाते हैं कुछ दिन में, सिम्टम भी नहीं आते कुछ लोगों में। तो ये एक दूसरी तरह की तकलीफ है। एक तीसरी तरह की तकलीफ है जो सोसाइटी में डर का माहौल पैदा हुआ है, जैसा कि अभी किया कि किसी ने वो सुसाइड कर लिया 7th फ्लोर से कूदकर। बाद में मालूम हो कि वो तो नेगेटिव था, पॉजिटिव था भी नहीं, बस उसको रखा गया था और वो सस्पेशन था और प्रोसेस चल रहा था, उसको बर्दाश्त नहीं हुआ। ये जो असरात हैं वो ठीक है अपनी जगह, कि वो सोसाइटी, इतनी बड़ी सोसाइटी है, इतना बड़ा मुल्क है, इतनी बड़ी दुनिया है, इतने सारे लोग हैं, तो अलग अलग तरह के इम्पेक्ट अलग अलग चीजों के आने वाले हैं। ऑफ कोर्स एक वक्त ऐसा भी था कि ये महसूस हुआ कि ये इस्लामोफोबिक है बहुत, सब सारा जोर मुसलमान की तरफ आ गया। तो लेकिन उससे जरा पहले हम देखेंगे तो वो मॉडल थी लखनऊ की, उनका केस हुआ था, तो उन्होंने भी ये शिकायत करी थी कि मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है कि मुझे टेररिस्ट बना दिया है मीडिया ने। तो इसमें कुछ मीडिया का भी रोल है सारी चीजों को उस तरफ ले जाने में, तो उसका असर है कुछ कुछ अभी भी, कि कुछ जगहों पर ऐसे वाकयात होते हैं। अब उस वाकये के दो रीजन हो सकते हैं। एक रीजन ये हो सकता है कि लोग बायस हैं, पहले से ही लोगों का ख्याल ऐसा है कि मुसलमान ऐसे होते हैं। लेकिन मेरा मानना ऐसा है कि इसमें वो चीज अपनी जगह होने के साथ साथ है, उसके भी कुछ इंसिडेंट्स हो सकते हैं, कुछ चीजें नजर में हो सकती हैं, लेकिन इन जनरल जब मैं टोटल देखता हूं तो ये इस पेंडेमिक का जो इम्पैक्ट आया है और उसमें जो चीज नजर आ रही है उसमें कम्युनल एंगल कम है, और जो डर है लोगों के दिल में वो ज्यादा है, कि वो डर किसी भी आदमी को, एक आदमी दूसरे आदमी से डर रहा है, उसके करीब जाने से डर रहा है, उससे दूर रहना चाह रहा है, जो लोग भी एहतियात करते हैं। तो ये है, अब ये है तो है, अब उसको कौन बदल सकता है। बहुत सारी चीजें मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि अभी भी बदल गई हैं और आगे ऐसा होने वाला है। मुझे जो नजर आ रहा है कि जब हम इस मुसीबत से निकल आएंगे, खुदा करे जल्दी से निकल आए, तो हमें ऐसा लगता है जब हम निकल आएंगे तो काफी दुनिया तब्दील हो चुकी होगी, चेंज हो चुकी, लोगों का बिहेवियर चेंज हो चुका होगा। अभी भी बिहेवियरल जो डिसऑर्डर की, मैं तो इसे डिसऑर्डर नाम देता हूँ, लोगों का अंदर उसके सिम्टम्स दिख रहे हैं कि काफी चीजें चेंज हो गई हैं। हमारे अपने सर्किल में हम देखते हैं कि लोग, एक वो आदमी था जो बहुत बिजी रहता था, अभी उसको कोई काम नहीं है, घर वाले कहते हैं एहतियात के लिए तुम्हें घर में रहना, अच्छा बाहर जा भी नहीं सकता। हमारे जैसे लोग ही हैं कि हम लोग रोजाना कहीं ना कहीं हम लोग किसी न किसी मीटिंग में हुआ करते थे, अभी तो घर में है, कोई मीटिंग लेने वाला भी नहीं, कोई देने वाला भी नहीं। उसका जो इम्पैक्ट आदमी के ऊपर पड़ता है, फिर पूरी सोसाइटी पर जो इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है वो पड़ा है, और आगे और भी ज्यादा होगा। पता नहीं कितना टाइम हम लोगों को इसमें निकल जाएगा। तो बहरहाल मेरी समझ में ये कुछ बातें थी जो मैंने अर्ज की है। मैं
Thank you very much, Maulana ji. Thank you very much for putting your views. And definitely, I request you to please be there because we would soon be getting flooded with questions. I would request my everyone, the attendees, all the participants. The participants' number has already crossed 327. I request all of you to please post your questions only in question and answer section. Please do not post your questions in chat box. I'll not be able to address your question. So please put your questions in Q&A box only. I'm your host, Gautam Bapat. You'll find my name in the questions and answers section. So please post the questions to me only. And one more request, please post questions only. Please do not post comments because they won't be addressed there. Thank you very much for that. Next, it is my privilege to invite the next eminent speaker of this session, Sri Anil Pradhan ji. But before I invite him to speak, it is my privilege to introduce him to all of you. A 24-year-old engineer, Anil Pradhan, is one of the revolutionary educationists of India. He is the founder of School for Rural Innovation, which is a noble initiative to educate the less privileged students of Odisha through the interdisciplinary curriculum in year 2015. felicitated with awards like Global Change Maker by Dias Foundation, National Youth Icon of 2018. Mr. Anil has quite three crunchy jobs to follow his dreams. His mission is to create a thirst for innovation among the students so that every student, regardless of the background, becomes an achiever and in the process of our country's progress. Engineering students go for jobs. However, Mr. Anil is an exception. It is indeed our privilege to have you here today with us, sir. Without wasting a single minute, I hand over the charge to you. Over to you, sir.
Namaskar, and a very good evening to all of you. So what a good topic it is, virus in body or soul. So during this pandemic, virus in body is not that much harmful than the virus in our soul. I like to outline few of the crucial situations that is ongoing in our world. So the first situation is, there are many, besides this health crisis, there are many other crises that is going on. The first one I would like to outline is in America, the George Floyd case, the racism case. So in America, if you'll see, I have statistics. The number of cases, number of death cases is around, but other people who have died because of this riot, because of this George Floyd case, it is around 200 plus, and 11,000 have been arrested. The second case is of Russia in Moscow. There is also protest going on, but in Russia, 4,000 people they died because of this pandemic, but because of this riot, 2,300 people died. Then same is the case with Sudan and Ethiopia. They are having a war-like situation in their borders. So there is a population of 11 crore who has been impacted by this war. This is one of the dense city in Africa. So there is a water problem. There's a conflict between the religion like Christian and Muslims. So there are a lot of problems that is going on. So the solution, what is the solution of this? So this is the virus in our soul. This is all because of this virus in our soul, in the humanity. Pandemic is nothing. If we look on for these problems in various countries, in front of this, the pandemic is nothing. So my main focus is on SDG 4 of the UN, that is the quality education. We have 17 of these SDGs outlined by UN, but the most important is the SDG 4, which talks about quality education. This whole thing happened because of the mishap that is going on in our humanity. When we talk about education, we also talk about impacting the world. We also talk about creating global citizens, and how this can be possible if we won't be revolutionizing our education system. The education system before 50 years is the same that we are teaching our students. We haven't changed anything. The country, the needs of the world, the need of the country, the need of the humanity is totally different in this era. At that time, the education system is only there to create clerk-like jobs. The people were fit for clerk-like jobs. But during this 21st century, the need of the world is global citizens, leaders, innovators who can make something, who can do something for the country, who can employ a lot of people. When we talk about various schemes in India, when we talk about Atmanirbharta, how it will happen? Will it happen like if we won't change anything, if we'll work like that and we'll look forward for other countries to import and make stuffs for us? This will be only possible if we'll promote value-based universal education system. And how that's going to happen is if we look forward for our policy, the policy by India, if we'll look forward for the policy that is known as the NEF, National Education for Framework 2019. I was going through that. So we had a very good policy, but the problem is with the implementation. If you look to the policy and you look to the implementation, there is a huge gap between the policy and implementation. And why I'm talking only about education is, when we have these 17 SDGs, from zero poverty, from zero hunger to partnership, we have environment, we have all that stuff. But the most important is the education. If we're going to change this, this will indirectly or directly impact all the rest 16 SDGs. So my thought is, how can we change it? So this is one of my initiative, as I was introduced. So this actually started with one of my initiative in the villages, where I tried to make everything practical. The main problem with our education system is it's talk about only chalk and talk. In our education system, the only thing what happens is chalk and talk. There is no practicality. So what I told is, I'm going to change this. So from chalk and talk, what we are doing is we are working on act and innovate. You don't learn, we don't teach. We make them learn everything. We don't teach here. We only make them learn. We provide an environment. We have we have implemented a lot of stuffs in our school. Because of this pandemic, what happened is now every school is shifting from the offline mode of teaching to the online mode of teaching. But this happened in our school a long back, and this happened in a village. So you can just imagine students, the less privileged students here in our village are using digital content. They are using the tablets to learn their content, because what for us, these content can be learned with the help of this tablet. Then we have done a lot of stuff, like to implement the skills, the soft skills of the students and other skills. We have implemented a lot of classrooms, a lot of labs in our school. For example, I'll let you know a few of the labs. One of the lab is Tod Ford Jod lab. So this is basically a laboratory where students come down, they learn about a lot of this, they do a lot of Tod Ford, and in the process they learn how things work, and this is how which make them learn and innovate. We have other kind of lab, like climate change is one of the burning topics in India, not in India, across the world. But just if you look forward for our institutions, our schools, our colleges, are we addressing this challenge? Are we really addressing this challenge, or making our students only learn through chalk and talk? It is, we did a long-term session for our students, for our rural students, and the name of this session is about Jugaad. What we do is we collect all the kind of waste materials, all the kind of plastic, everything, and we make them reuse and we make them recycle at our own campus. So we have a lot of stuffs like this. We have also like other things like Zor Ka Jhatka lab. In this lab, we have like electronics and all the stuff. And this is taught from a very younger age. Like students who are in grade 1 and grade 2. From that age, we are making them understand what is this, how this can be implemented, and how you're going to make this stuff. It's all about, what I think is, it's all about the mindset. It's all about the mindset. If your mind is cool, then you can make your body and your soul work according to what's going on your mind. So it's all about the mindset. So this is the education system. What I was talking about is all about the mindset. If we can make that happen, then we can do anything in life. We can make anything happen at our own place. Like the students that our institution is making, they are totally different. We are not looking forward for students those will come with a degree or with a certificate at the end. We are looking forward for the students those who can come up with solution of the real life. And this is how I think we can make a change, and this is how we can tackle the virus in the soul. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for listening so patiently, and thank you so much to the team at MIT WPU for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anil Pradhanji. Thank you very much for bringing that lot required innovation in Indian society and making it available for the young minds of our country. Thank you very much for that. And now it is indeed my honor and privilege to take the entire audience to our next eminent speaker, the President of Central Tibetan Administration, Dr. Lobsang Sangye. But before I invite him to speak, it is indeed my honor and privilege to introduce him to all the audience. Dr. Lobsang Sangye, Honorable President of Central Tibetan Administration, born September 5th, 1968, is an Indian-born American Tibetan politician who is a president of the Tibetan government in exile, officially known as Central Tibetan Administration since 2012, and previously served as Kalong Tripa, the Prime Minister from 2011 to 2012. Following his election at the request of the 14th Dalai Lama, the Tibetan parliament in exile amended the organization's bylaws to remove the Dalai Lama's executive authority, making Sri Lobsang Sangye its highest leader. Sri Sangye was born in Darjeeling, India, and studied international law and democracy at Harvard University and holds American citizenship. In year 2004, he became the first Tibetan to earn a SGD degree from Harvard Law School and was the recipient of 2004 Young K. Kim 95 Memorial Prize for his excellence for his dissertation. My friends, he received the gold medal of the College Historical Society of Trinity College Dublin for outstanding contribution to public discourse by auditor of the society. It is indeed our honor and privilege to have the Honorable President with us today. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. And without wasting a single minute, I hand over the charge to you. Over to you, sir. We are unable to hear you, sir. Well, these kind of technical glitches would keep on happening, as Maulana ji was saying, कि हम ये किस तरह की दुनिया में अटक गए हैं कि ना बाहर जा सकते हैं ना अंदर आ सकते हैं. So I think this is what is one more aspect of it. We have become too much dependent on technology. The students are also sitting in front of. मतलब एक वक्त था कि हम बच्चों को बोलते थे कि लैपटॉप से दूर रहो, मोबाइल यूज मत करो, ज्यादा यूज इट्स वेरी बैड. बट अब वक्त ऐसा हो चला है कि बच्चों को बोलना पड़ रहा है कि आपकी पढ़ाई अब लैपटॉप पे होगी, अब स्कूल ऑनलाइन है, मोबाइल पे होगा, तो you'll have to probably sit in front of your screens. But unfortunately, yes, we are bound to follow the new normal. We are still waiting for Honorable President Sir's voice to reach us. We can see him very clearly.
Sir, I think they can hear us. There is just microphone issue. We'll wait for a few seconds.
Yes, I understand that, because when I said, I think our audio is reaching Sir very clearly, but I think let's wait for a few seconds more till the time we can hear him. Anil Pradhanji, meanwhile, let me just check with you that you are still with us, because there would be so many questions, those would be coming to us. Let me just check on the questions and answers section. Meanwhile, my friends, I can see few questions, reaching me in the questions and answers box, but equally more number of questions I can see in the chat box. So please note that questions in the chat box, I may not be able to take them. So please ensure that you post me only questions in the questions and answers section. Okay, you can, well, I can see again the comments in the questions and answer section. Please avoid doing that. Please post only your questions in the Q&A box. Thank you very much.
Sir, I think we can go to the next speaker.
Next speaker, okay.
Yeah.
With your kind permission, President Sir, we would like to go to the next speaker. Thank you very much for that. Meanwhile, I'm sure your team would fix the issue. The next speaker I have in this particular session, who is already with us, Dr. Kavita Sharma ji, and it is indeed my honor and privilege to introduce her to all of you. My friends, Dr. Kavita Sharma was the former president of South Asian University, an accomplished academician. Dr. Kavita Sharma has been an active contributor to the cause of higher education through her teaching, publications, and the institutions she has been associated with. Dr. Kavita Sharma started teaching in year 1971 in Delhi University's Hindu College and became its principal in 1998 and served there till 2008 when she took up another challenging assignment as the director of India International Center, New Delhi. Her research paper on wide range of topics including higher education, language, immigration and identity, culture and women have made their ways in many reputed national and international publications. Dr. Sharma holds a PhD in English from University of Delhi and LLM degree from University of British Columbia, Canada. A Fulbright Fellow, she has conferred Indira Gandhi Sadbhavna Award by the National Integration and Economic Council in year 2005. Widely travel around the world, Dr. Sharma had also been an honorary visiting lecturer at Tokyo's Women's Christian College and University of Indonesia. It is indeed our privilege and honor to have you here today with us, ma'am. Thank you very much for joining in. And without taking a minute more, I hand over the charge to you. Over to you, ma'am. No, I think, yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. So, my previous speakers, first, if you give me one moment, I'll put my dog outside the room. 1 second. Very much for having us here. Since we have only 10 minutes, we will go immediately to the point. I don't think I need to repeat the impact of coronavirus. It's been over and over and over again, it has been stated, both on the health of people and on the economies of people and on their living and conditions that they are being made to suffer. So I, being a student of Mahabharata, would like to begin with, at the end of the war, Vyas puts up his hands and he says, I repeat over and over again that wealth and desire, including sexual desire, can be fulfilled, but it must be done through righteousness. And this is something that he says is a forest, it's a cry in vain in the forest because nobody listens and nobody ever listens, and therefore darkness will come over and over again, and you will, can you hear me? Because I'm getting a message that darkness will come over and over again and we are bound to repeat. Now, this is the same with us. It was only 100 years ago that we had the Spanish flu, which killed 1/3 of the world's population, and we seem to have forgotten about it. Now, let me also summarize for you what Yuval Noah Harari, one of the very good sociologists, says. And he says there is always a societal consensus. At one time, it was imperialism and feudalism. That broke down to give rise to socialism. That broke down to give rise to capitalism. But now there's no consensus even on that. And it has all come to only individual, which the individual, of course, these are not watertight compartments, but the individual uses everything and it's only I, me and mine. How can I go ahead? How can I get more and more? So all this me has led to the breakdown of society. It has led to breakdown of family. It has led to the breakdown of even marriages. And so the whole society, it has led to intense isolation. Privacy has become a fetish. huge amount of stress, which leads to aberrant behavior, mass shooting and suicides and all kinds of things. Again, quoting from the Indian tradition, I would say there is a cosmic balance. There is a rhythm, which is a law of cause and effect. Now, if we, in our human greed and in our selfishness, only go towards I, me, and mine, ignore exploiting nature, exploiting people, and of course, that coupled with globalization, which has made travel very quick, we are bound to face more and more pandemics. Our pathogens we carry here and there and everywhere. We don't care. Now, somebody was talking about China. Well, for how long has Hong Kong battled and the world hasn't bothered? If you go further back, Tiananmen Square, it was business as usual in 3 to 4 months. No statement of China can be trusted. Whether this was a deliberate thing or an accident, we don't know. Whether the WHO was complicit or the other, we don't know. So anyway, what am I trying to say? That since I am an educationist, I will come back to education. Somewhere our education system has also failed us. Now, we have failed, we have broken down society, and education system encourages the cutthroat competition. I was talking to somebody yesterday, when we were students or even generation later, we would cooperate and study with each other. Now that every mark counts, we don't even tell what we are studying and we try to mislead somebody. When I was principal of Hindu College, I had this horrible thing of a blind student being beaten up and put into a room so that he doesn't do well, and so that the job reserved for the visually challenged can go to somebody who was an aspirant for it. So this is the kind of thing that we have done. We have forgotten the interconnectedness, the classic Vedantic thing of the clay and the pot, that the space inside is the same as the space outside. And so both are the same. That means the world is in me and I am in the world. This is something we have forgotten. If we remember this and put this into our education system, then we cannot exploit nature, we cannot exploit people, we cannot go only to power, wealth, and domination. What is China all about? It's about world domination. What is the trade wars all about? It's about world domination. So what I'm really saying is that the value system needs to be brought back. Now, for some people, this lockdown has proved to be a bane. For some people, it has proved to be a boon. For people like me, it has proved to be a boon, and God is kind, I'm very lucky. But for many, it has proved to be a bane. And it's not just because of physical or material conditions, it's also because there is a virus in the soul. They cannot bear to be alone. Right? They cannot bear to be alone. So, as Bertrand Russell pointed out, we must understand that science and technology has given us infinite power to do good, but infinite power to do bad. And so, please let me know when my time is over. So he says that there has to be 3 processes followed in educational institutions: thinking, feeling, and willing. Now we remember thinking and willing, but we've forgotten feeling. What it is like to be in somebody else's shoes. What is the sympathy? What is this empathy? Now again, in colleges, something beyond the textbook, because textbook today with the internet and everything they can get. So it is to think out of the box, to think with sympathy, to think with empathy, to understand the interconnectedness of the world. So there are 3 things: to be competent, to be engaged, to be ethical. Competence changes according to the needs of the society. Engaged is the ability to transform the world. My young colleague earlier was saying on how he's transforming the education of the villagers to make them productive. But this has to be done ethically. You cannot do it without ethics. We all know that we only use a portion of our brain. We all know that we are just a speck in this cosmos. If you see the from the astronomer's point of view or from a paleontologist's point of view, we are just a speck. However, our brains have a huge amount of potential that goes untapped. Our education system must tap that. Again, the education system must tap into that. And then Okay.
Yeah, we can go ahead. We have a minute left with us before we go to the questions. Please go ahead.
So what do we want our education system to do? We don't want them to concentrate so much on examinations. We have to teach them something beyond those examinations. We also don't want them to become technically very efficient and angry, bitter, frustrated. We create wonderful engineers and doctors and everybody, but they are so frustrated and emotionally deprived in their real life that they are incapable of going ahead. So we need to have a paradigm shift in our educational institutions. Also, why I mentioned this astronomer and paleontology, because the world is not given to us like a book that you can open one chapter and read it. It's constantly changing, constantly evolving. So our education system must also create open-ended mechanisms which allow people to evolve and to grow at their own rate, at their own potential. And for this, you need conversations, more and more and more of conversations as you are doing now. Thank you so much. I just bullet pointed.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much for your thoughts, sharing with us. Thank you very much. And I think we are all good from Honorable President Dr. Lobsang Sangyeji's side. Over to you, sir. Well,
Way to Pune, and good to see Vishwanathan ji and all the eminent speakers before me. What a privilege. I want to say namaskar to everybody. And I think as two of my previous colleagues, emphasize the need to change education, I'll also somehow, make some suggestions or make some comments on that. Now with this coronavirus pandemic, a very serious issue. I think if you look back at world history, the Treaty of Westphalia was one turning point where the global order, the global mechanism changed. And then the First World War and Second World War also was a watershed moment in world history where, diplomacy prevailed over war and violence, and then all these international mechanisms came into being. And then 9/11 happened. That secularized the whole world. Now you go to airport, you go to even libraries, you go to schools, everywhere you have to have all this, X-ray machines to check everything. So the coronavirus has really impacted. If you look at economically, global economy, as per IMF, will shrink by $12 trillion. Now, India's economy is around $3 trillion. So if world economy shrinks by $12 trillion, that means, 4 times the GDP of India. So that much of impact it will have. So which means it will generate so much of unemployment, and it will create so much of social disharmony. And then now you need a new thinking, again, new paradigm as to how we approach things. Already, the social norms that we used to have, you must go out and socialize was the norm. Now you must maintain social distance. Now we always say you must go and pay respect to the elders and meet them, be with them. Now we must maintain distance and stay away from elders. Before we used to say you go out. Now you say no, you stay in. The social norms and behavior are also changing, and that is also causing so much mental stress, anxiety, depression, loneliness, right? And then, if you go by one figure, in 2008 global recession, I think the suicide rate increased tremendously during that time because the global economy went into recession. It created so much unemployment and it affected so many people's livelihood. The suicide rate increased. Now, and from WHO point of view, every year, 800,000 people commit suicide, meaning every 40 seconds, there is someone committing suicide. Now, in the last, 40 minutes of our, the panel discussion here, we can assume that 100 people have committed suicide. So this is a sad state. Now this coronavirus, which originated in China, has led to this stress, mental stress over everybody. And there was a bit of a churchai discussion with the Bollywood actor, as illustrated by previous speaker. His suicide led to this discussion, and he was quoted. In fact, he has engineering background, and he gave a talk at IIT and said, "Look, if someone says that fame and money brings happiness, it's absolutely wrong." Because he came from Bihar and he made fame and he made money, but he said that doesn't equal to happiness. So what it says is that the people's mindset, the education teaches you to be ambitious. Ambitious for what? For career, for a job, for material things. And that's it. Success is measured from material point of view. So now you need an education system that doesn't teach your brain, but teaches your mind. It teaches you values of karuna, kindness, empathy. So you have to inculcate these values while you are very young, because if your values are not good, if you're a politician, you pursue power. Once you get power, because your values, inner values, are not correct or not sound, what you do is you abuse your power. If you're a businessman, you use your power or money to make more money, and then after some time, you start abusing that money as well. So even in academia, Henry Kissinger was quoted as saying, "Why academic politics is so nasty? Because issues are so small. Because they start arguing for which corner of the office you get, or what kind of classroom you get, or how much grant you get. Because the inner values are not sound, then the outer appearance, the outer action will be corrupted, even to monastic community as well. You are a guru, you are a spiritual teacher, but you focus so much on material things. Religion in itself is very good. But then religion becomes religionism. It's turned into an ideology, right? And then you become religiosity. You take it to society and say your religion and my religion. Religion is supposed to give you happiness, give you kindness and love. But religion is used more to divide than to unite people. Why? Because the inner values are not taught. So time has come for education to emphasize on inner values of karuna, of compassion, kindness, empathy. So that's why His Holiness Dalai Lama has come out with a textbook or curriculum from kindergarten all the way to high school to colleges. So this is scientifically researched by American university called Emory University, and they have come out with a textbook which is introduced in 36 countries now, including in various parts of India. So, for example, Delhi University, this capital city of Delhi, they have introduced a curriculum of happiness where there's element of yoga, where there's element of meditation and other values. So this is becoming very popular. Unless you teach your mind, unless you teach your heart, unless your mind and heart is at sound place, head doesn't help. So that's why you grow on to be more corrupt and more abusive. Even as an individual, you lose your temper more frequently because you can't take the stress, and you started having abusive relationship, even your loved ones, the dearest ones, your family members, right? So that's why I think now what this coronavirus taught us is that, yes, this is very serious. It will have a global impact, like Westphalia, like First World War, Second World War, like 9/11 tragedy. Now we have to reshape the world. What it showed is that the present world, the institutional mechanism, the focus of a country or a society or individual is too much material oriented without inner values. That's why we took the wrong path, and we are facing this tension. Now, being a Tibetan, I must bring the China factor here. This is also a great debate between democracy and authoritarianism. Which one will prevail? Which one is better in solving people's problem? So there were some people who said that China's mechanism, one-party system, is very effective because you make decision, you implement it, and you can build highways, you can build roads. Whereas in democracy, you have to consult the people, the panchayat. It takes so much time, then it's not effective. But this is not new. What's happening in China? If you go back, a Nobel laureate, Amartya Sen, did a research and later wrote a book also called Famine, in which he compared famine in China and famine in India. And he concluded by saying, even though when the famine was taking place in China, China had more grain in their storerooms. But because it's one-party system, the lowest level start pandering to the highest level. There was no freedom of speech. There was no independent journalists. So no one reported about it. Everybody started reporting that things are good. No one is dying. And then more people, millions more, died in China. Whereas in India, famine in Bengal, there were less grain in the storerooms of India or Bengal, but the journalists started writing about it. Media started criticizing the government for people dying out of hunger. So the government took steps to release even the lesser amount of grain from the storerooms, and less people died during the famine. So obviously, democracy or authoritarianism, democracy is a better option. Democracy helps create this atmosphere, transparency, where even though you have less number of amount of grain, but you can make it available to the people and save more people, even though the status of famine is more severe in India. Now, this is the lesson we must convey to the Chinese government. Again, we had SARS. Why? There was no freedom of speech in China. Not many people reported. Now the coronavirus. Now there are certain international researchers have concluded, think tanks have concluded, that the crucial 3 weeks to 6 weeks, when there was a human-to-human transmission, when thousands of people were dying in China, Chinese government refused to share that information with WHO and rest of the world. That prevented the world to prepare and deal with this pandemic. And now the researchers have concluded that 95% of infection and death could have been prevented if the information was released 3 to 6 weeks ahead of what the Chinese government did. So now, yes, this is the issue of inner values, how to educate the youth, how to change the world. But at a macro level, this is also an issue of democracy and authoritarianism. And I want to conclude by saying, yes, in a democratic setup, you can create an environment where there is transparency. In the democratic setup, you can create and introduce curriculum, educational curriculum, where you can teach the mind of the people, the heart of the children, and they will grow on to become a better leader who will embrace democracy, transparency, and rule the world better. Business people will be more, generous, right? So the teachers will be more compassionate to their children. So even the gurus, the religious gurus who teaches compassion will actually practice compassion to their disciples as well. That's the world we should build. And for that, we have to start at a ground level. That's education. So with that, this is some of my random thoughts. And what a privilege to share the panel with so many distinguished speakers. And I want to thank MIT for this privilege once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for being there. And thank you very much for joining us for this very, very important discussion in this very, very important conference. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of Dr. Vishwanath Karad, MIT World Peace University, we all thank you very much for your kind participation. My friends, now it is time that I invite the next eminent speaker of this session, Acharya Shri Pundrik Goswamiji, who has joined us with us now. And it is my honor and privilege to introduce him to all of you. Acharya Shri Pundrik Goswamiji Maharaj is established as meritorious Acharya to Madhava Gaureshwar Vaishnava's feet. He is following the path of his predecessors in spreading the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through discourse on various Vaishnava scriptures all over the world so that people may benefit by knowing the real meaning of life. He is basically known for leaving his listeners spellbound with his divine explanations on glorious Hari Leela and is miraculous in rendering lengthy praises flawlessly. His Holiness Sri Pundrik Goswamiji Maharaj has initiated many programs to enlighten youth. International Gopal clubs to promote Krishna consciousness is one of these. It is indeed our honor and privilege to have Sri Pundrik Goswamiji Maharaj with us today. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. And without wasting a single minute, I hand over the charge to you. Over to you, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you, Dr. Vishwanath Kararji. It's an honor to see you always and to be with you and on the different panels of MIT Pune. Thank you, Rahulji, also. He is always inviting me and asking me to speak in different platforms, especially the Chhatra Sansad. Just at my back, you can see the poster of Bharatiya Chhatra Sansad, the award which I received from MIT Pune. It's an excellent discussion going on. I'm sorry there was some technical issues from my side, so I couldn't join from the starting, and I just recently popped in, so I didn't know the whole conversation, how it goes, but I know the main subject and will put some of my small thoughts on that. It's a very thought-provoking subject, that is the COVID-19 on body, on soul. We need to understand recently what the speaker was saying was very right. I accept that of course there's so much compassion we need to build in the society. So somebody said very beautifully that the biggest problem in this world is the hunger, not the hunger of stomach that can be satisfied with different meanings, but the hunger of heart. Everybody is somewhere starving to get some compassion and love around the world. We need to understand, as we are talking on this educational panel, education, I would say, gives the first impact in a human's life. शिक्षा का जो केंद्र है वो सबसे पहले जीवन को प्रभावित करता है. मैं थोड़ा बहुत हिंदी में भी बोलना चाहूँगा क्योंकि वो मेरी मातृभाषा है. मैं सोचता हिंदी में हूँ, पर definitely I will also translate it into English wherever I feel easy. So we need to understand definitely how the society is coming up now. Somehow I would say कि ये जो quarantine हम लोग नहीं हुए, in fact nature quarantine हुआ. Nature was somehow starving for this, was in so much trouble how the things were happening previously. We were just going blindly and making everything. And ultimately we had come to this COVID-19, which nobody can control now. And the social distancing has come up, and everything will definitely be changed. There is no question, it is changing. How the lifestyle is happening now, everything is being changed. So in the education system, of course, there is so much we talk about getting an employment, but education केवल employment तक सीमित नहीं है. In fact, संस्कृत का श्लोक है विद्या ददाति विनयम, विनयात. विनय का अर्थ होता है humbleness. शिक्षा के साथ जीवन में अगर साधारणीकरण नहीं है, सरलता नहीं है, सहजता नहीं है, तो वो कहीं ना कहीं शिक्षा हमारे जीवन में पूर्णता से प्राप्ति संपन्न नहीं हो सकती. सारा का सारा भारतीय जितना धर्म है, उसका आधार है विश्वास नहीं, उसका आधार विज्ञान है, त्रिपथ विज्ञान है. शारीरिक विज्ञान, उसके बाद में ब्रह्मांडीय विज्ञान, और उसके बाद में आत्मिक विज्ञान. उसका आधार ही आत्मा है, सोल है. There are 4 aspects of human body. One is of his physical existence, then mind, third is, I would say, his intellect, and fourth is the spirit. When we use the word spirituality, that means we are talking about that 4 aspects. of course, the physical existence is definitely we keep on changing and it will always be changed. When we talk about mind, of course, the biggest issue now is the mental health. Recently, what even the recent speaker was talking about this suicide, it's a big thing now in country, and he gave this 8 lakh people is even dying every year. It's a big thing. So this has been there and this will be there. So there's a big impact on the mind. The third aspect is the intellect, and the fourth aspect is the soul. Now the whole foundation of the education system is not training anybody for even the mind, even for the, I would say, intellect, even for the body, and even for the soul. There's no education for all the four aspects, which makes a human. Recently, we see there are different institutes which are empowering yoga, somehow connecting you to ask you to be physically fit. When it's come to, there's so much information which we want to insert in a human mind. That's it, what the educations are doing. कि बस बहुत सारी सूचनाएं किसी की बुद्धि में भर दी जाए और उसके पास अगर एक सर्टिफिकेट है. I could hear some audio of Shri Kavita Sharma ji, as she was saying very rightly कि examination कोई cross करना human life का task नहीं है. In fact, every step is an examination. So certificate तक सीमित होकर और केवल economy को ही establish करना, that is a very important part, I would say. But as the Vedic scripture says, there are four goals. The whole life is already planned if you go to the Vedic system. We talk about you should go ahead as brahmachari. The explanation of brahmachari is that you should invest this much of your time into education, into learning. No matter now it's a different aspect that how much you can learn. The second part is you enter into the grahastha. That's the part when you should earn, you should think about economy, you should establish things. Then the third part comes is of vanaprastha, and fourth is the renunciation, sannyas. That's how the old ancient Indian system used to work. Everything was socially beautifully described. But then, of course, there's so many changes has been happened, and we were just going with the flow. The first work has to happen with the education. Recently in India, this Ramayana serial was a big thing. It was the, I would say, most viewed series happen on the television. I got to know about it. And if you see into that Ramayana serial, Ramji went to the Gurukul, and his guru Vasishtha, who was an educationist at that time, who taught him even how to be physically fit, how to be intellectually fit, how to be mentally fit. And there was one scene I can still remember very easily when Ram had that soul experience also. He went out of his physical body and had that soul experience. आज के समय में तो किसी को उसके अनुभव का भी विषय प्राप्त नहीं होता. केवल हमारा मूल आधार व्यवस्थाओं का निर्माण करना है और उसके द्वारा एम्प्लॉयमेंट को स्टैब्लिश करना है. इतने तक ही सारी शिक्षाएं समाप्त हो जाती हैं. और कितना भी वो प्राप्त कर लिया जाए, उसके बाद भी जीवन में कभी संतुष्टि, जीवन में कभी प्रसन्नता, जीवन में कभी शांति को प्राप्त नहीं किया जा सकता. असीमित धन प्राप्त करने के बाद भी उसके आनंद को नहीं खोजा जा सकता. वास्तव में जीवन में जो ब्लिसफुलनेस है, जो पीस है, वो तभी हो सकती है. योग का मतलब भी होता है aligning your physical existence with your mental strength, with your intellectual strength, with its source, which is your soul, your spirit. So when you talk about the fourth aspect, when you educate somebody about the fourth aspect, when you make an arrangement so that somebody can experience that fourth aspect, this is what we call the spirituality also. अध्यात्म का मतलब ही यही है कि वो चतुर्थ विषय का उसके जीवन में अनुभव हो. एक जीवन अपनी धारा में चले जा रहा है. इसलिए ये भी बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात है कि MIT पुणे, जो मैं कितने सालों से अब जुड़ा हुआ हूँ, कि बहुत समय से इस विषय के ऊपर चिंतन करता है, विचार करता है. और सदैव अध्यात्म को भी अपने साथ रखें और मनुष्य जीवन के जो उसका मूल आधार है उसको समझने का प्रयत्न करता है। तो एजुकेशन सिस्टम कैरेक्टर बिल्डिंग तक भी अवश्य आए और साथ ही साथ जो उसका एक आध्यात्मिक पक्ष है जिससे उसको वास्तविक संतुष्टि का अनुभव होगा, उसका प्रबंध अगर वहां से शुरू होना हो तो ये बहुत बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात होगी। डॉक्टर विश्वनाथ जी को, राहुल जी को, मैं आप सभी और पूरे MIT को मैं साधुवाद करता हूँ, धन्यवाद करता हूँ। Of course, there's so much I could have said, but I know we are getting late, and I just wanted to do, as the previous speaker said, wanted to give some random ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Swamiji. Thank you very much. And as you mentioned very rightly, that at MIT World Peace University, we always had that component of spirituality. And it's all because of our beloved founder, Honorable Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karad, sir, who's here with us. It's only because of him, the path he showed all of us 40 years back. And we all are fortunate enough that we are able to walk on that path under his able guidance. Thank you very much for that. And you also said random thoughts, Honorable President, sir. Lobsang Sangyeji also said random thoughts. If your thoughts are random, then I really don't know that how to organize this particular discourse. Thank you very much for that. And I think it's time that we go for questions and answers. President, sir, Dr. Lobsang Sangyeji, could you hear us? Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, so here we go. We'll take quick questions. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions with me, which I've shortlisted. So here it goes. The first question is coming all the way from Tokyo, Japan, and it is asked by Dr. Lakshmi and Dr. K.E. Sitaram, and they're saying that the pandemic reminds us that we should endeavor to lead a human life, remove that greed from the lifestyle, and enlighten the lifestyle that assures peace. So yes, so how exactly to achieve it? Probably this question would be well suited for Swamiji. You're mute, sir.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I some voice problem. I couldn't hear it properly. I'm so
okay. So basically, the question is: this pandemic reminds us that we should endeavor and lead a simple human life, which is beyond greed. So how exactly to achieve this?
You need to see that, you just need to remember, if I just given a small example, if you want to make a beautiful statue out of a piece of a massive stone, what happened? A man sold a big piece of stone to somebody, maybe in 500 rupees. After 6 months, when he was bypassing from that store, he saw there was a beautiful statue, and he could recognize that the statue is of the same material, it's the same stone. But when he saw the price tag, it was for, I would say, 500,000, 5 lakh rupees. He was shocked. He said, what happened? I sold him a piece which maybe weighted 50 kgs. Now the weight, the shape, the size, everything is reduced, but the price is increased. I sold him for 500 rupees. Now he's selling it in 5 lakh rupees. How this could happen? So he went to the shopkeeper. He said, I can remember this piece of stone. What you have added into it? So it became so priceless. So the shopkeeper said, I didn't add anything. My store is still small. That's why I am selling it in 5 lakh rupees. If I'm maybe having a big showroom, I can maybe sell it for 15 lakh rupees, or it's a priceless thing. What I have done is I have removed the extra things which is there. When I start removing the extra things, that big piece of stone become a very beautiful statue. So I think this story is answering everything. You just need to see what is important.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for that answer, sir. The next question is coming for Honorable President, sir. The question is coming from Shweta Singh, and she asks, Honorable Sir, how do you see the change after post-pandemic era? I'm really scared. Will it be good or bad? How should we see this upcoming change? It's a big question.
Yes.
Over to you, sir.
I think connected with, during lockdown, one thing we realized is that, we can actually live with much less than normally, normally what we do. So, you have basic food, you do the basic things and you're still happy. Even during the lockdown, I decided that, I might land up eating more and gaining more weight. So I said, I'll cut down, lose weight, become healthy. I did the blood test and all that, the first week before the lockdown. And after 3 months, I did again the blood test. Everything has gone down. Everything has become normal. And I'm more healthy because I skipped dinner, so you can actually live with much less. That's what you realize from lockdown. Number two, you realize because of the coronavirus, the interdependence of the whole world, right? Before, the whole issue, as I was saying, from Second World War and Third World War, there were a lot of international mechanisms and institutions were established, yet many countries and many societies thought, me, myself, my society, my country, my nation. Now this coronavirus has done one thing. It's wiped out that notion. Whether you're rich or poor, you're infected, you could die. And whether you're in the south or the northern part of the world, you are infected and it's affected. So the interdependence of the world is realized. Now, in this notion, we have to build a new global mechanism. Still, I would say, democracy, freedom of speech, and that respects human rights are the foundation on which we have to build a new world with education as the primary focus with inner values, right? So that's how we should move forward, So now no country can say, oh, I'm separate from you, I'm not dependent on you. One virus has traveled so many countries and infected 8 million people, and how many people have died. So it's clear there's an interdependent world. And then this notion of interdependence, very much Buddhist, the Hindu notion, Impermanence is also very much Hindu Buddhist notion. So all these are coming back, and that's what we should share.
Thank you very much, sir. The next question is again coming to you, and this seems to be a little more serious question from. It is coming from Bihar Chhatra Sansad chapter. The chapter would like to ask you, sir, do you think India will be able to provide more job opportunities after this post-COVID era? As youth has already started losing their jobs, how India will be in upcoming 4 to 5 months survive with this kind of economy?
It's the direct outcome of this coronavirus is a tragedy. As I said, $12 trillion has been wiped out. And India's GDP is $3 trillion. So 4 times the size of India's GDP is gone. So India also in the last 2 quarters has been the worst outcome, worst economy. So unemployment is very high, and 100+ million migrant laborers are affected very badly, and the agriculture sector will be affected. Now hospitality and airlines all are affected, right? So unemployment will be high, unfortunately. Hence, Modi's call for Make in India, right? And to be more self-reliant, living with, less the Gandhian notion of, you have to revive all those, it's all there. We have to revive and then believe in the Gandhi's, way of living. And then, make sure that you can do with a lot less. So this is the direct impact. So, it's a long way to go, but it's not just India, it's the rest of the world.
This entire world. Yes, definitely. Indeed, sir. Thank you very much for that answer. But yes, that simply indicates that there is a tough time ahead of us, and we all have to fight together. Ma'am, there is one question for you. I was actually going to come to you. Soumya Tribrawal would like to ask a question to you, ma'am. She would humbly like to submit that she does not agree with you. Because of the virus being spread, do you think that the virus has entered our soul because of the spread? Due to the pandemic, people are becoming more depressed. What are your views? Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, your mic is mute. Yeah. No, it is still mute. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. Yeah.
Right. According to me, the virus has not entered the soul. It is the soul that has created the virus, because it has stopped being responsible human being which looks at the collective good and not just looks at itself. So I don't think it's the virus that has entered our soul and that is leading to depression or suicides or whatever else. It's our inability to have the spiritual strength, however old-fashioned that may sound. It is our inability to have the intellectual strength to be able to discriminate between right and wrong, between being able to discriminate between what is good for me must also be good for you. And I should act in a way, since she's a student, let me tell you, I should act in a way which is, if it is not acceptable to me, why should I act in a way which should not be then acceptable to you either? So I think it is the other way around, that virus has not entered our soul. We have created the virus by our exploitation, as I said, of nature, of environment, of beasts, of animals, birds, and complete lack of values. You know? I mean,
and probably
as I said,
that virus is equally infectious as this COVID-19 virus.
Yes, but on the economy, I want to add one more sentence. Yes, our economy is shattered. Yes, people have gone back and the migrant labor is in bad shape. If we know how to use our opportunity, we should develop our rural areas and create a strong rural economy. This imbalance between the urban and the rural sector has also created slums and shanty towns and diseases and our pathogens traveling. Yes, it is the passport holders that brought it because nobody knew about it. However, we've spread it and there is no social distancing possible. But Dharavi has shown how it can be done. So there's nothing to get depressed about, and people have to find occupations. And, you know what Gandhi said, and Ila Bhatt has written a book on it, 100-mile economy.
Right.
That you should be able to find everything that you need within your 100 miles.
Miles, yeah. Thank you very much for the input, ma'am. And with this, I reached the end of time for this particular session. So without wasting any time, I would like to move to the next point on the agenda. Sir, if you could please wait for 1 more minute. We just have one small point on agenda, and which is voting on resolution. So I would need all of your votes, everyone in the panel as well as everyone in the audience. So here it comes. We, the participants at the International Conference on Eradication of Biological and Chemical Weapons, demand that all the countries in the world must come together to create value-based universal education system based on appropriate understanding of the role of science and religion/philosophy and implemented as part of schooling curriculum. So your voting lines would open now. You would see it on your screen soon. You will get only 1 minute's time. I request my technical team to kindly start the poll. Yes, the poll has gone live. If you see it on your screen. Yes, thank you very much, President Sir, for asking your team to vote. Thank you very much. Please vote, everyone in the panel as well as everyone in the audience. Please go ahead. We would like to know what is your opinion. And thanks to technology, there are a few pluses and minuses of technology. Because of technology, it is possible that we can gather all your opinions just with one click. 342 people live right now. And I'm sure in less than a minute's time, 30 seconds have already passed. Last 30 seconds, please vote and make us understand that what is your opinion on this very, very important resolution of this particular topic. Last few seconds, my friends. I hope you all have found the polling in this Cisco WebEx Events software, and you have sent us your vote. Okay, the time is up, and I'm sure I would be able to see the result of the poll soon. I request my technical team if they could please show me. Oh, great! Everyone, those who have voted for the resolution. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. It was a very, very important session. But yes, we have our beloved founder of MIT World Peace University, Honorable Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karad, sir. And without understanding his views on this topic and this entire discourse of knowledge, we cannot go any further. I would like to request him, sir, if you could please guide us and address this entire gathering. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, our esteemed speakers, especially Honorable Dr. Lobsang Sangay, Mr. Acharya Sri Pundik ji, Mahmood Madani Sahab, Anil Pradhan, and Kavita